My name is Clara, and I recently turned 42. For the better part of a decade, I operated under a comforting delusion. I believed that a family was like a house. Once the foundation was poured and the walls were up, it would stand on its own, weathering any storm simply because it was built to do so. I thought commitment was a static thing, a promise you made once that lasted forever. I was wrong. I didn't realize that foundations can erode silently, grain of sand by grain of sand, until the ground you're standing on is no longer there. When I married Richard, I inherited a life that was already in motion. He was a widower and his son, Leo, was 16, a boy made of sharp angles and sullen silences. Leo had constructed a fortress around his grief, a perimeter I wasn't allowed to breach. I was the invader in his childhood home. For years, our relationship was defined by polite nods in the hallway and the sterile passing of side dishes at the dinner table. I tried to be warm, to be the soft place to land, but I was always met with a deflection, a wall of indifference that I couldn't climb. Richard, my husband, was a good man on paper. He was a provider, a man of logistics and schedules. He showed his love by ensuring the mortgage was paid and the cars were serviced. But emotionally, he was a locked room. After his first wife died, he had cauterized his heart. He offered me security, but he withheld his soul. Our marriage became a series of efficient transactions. We were business partners in the business of living, but the tenderness, the deep, messy connection of being truly known by another person, had evaporated. I told myself I was content. I told myself that peace was better than passion. But the human heart is not designed for solitary confinement. Neglect is a slow poison. You don't feel it entering your system. You only notice it when you realize you are starving while sitting at a full table. The shift happened when Leo turned 20. He had returned from university for the summer, no longer the sullen teenager I remembered. He had grown into a man observant, articulate, and possessing a depth of feeling his father lacked completely. While Richard was consumed with his work, buried in his study or traveling for conferences, Leo was present. He noticed things. He noticed when I changed my hair. He noticed when I was reading a book that made me cry. He noticed the silence that Richard left in his wake. It started innocently. Richard was away on a week-long symposium in Chicago. The house, usually echoing with emptiness, became filled with conversation. Leo and I would sit on the back porch as the summer evenings stretched out, talking about art, about philosophy, about the terrifying speed of time. One evening, the air thick with humidity, Leo looked at me over the rim of his glass. His gaze was direct, stripped of the indifference of his youth. "Does he ever ask you how you really are?" Leo asked. "Not the logistics, Clara. Does he ask about you?" The question was a key turning in a lock I had rusted shut. I tried to laugh it off, to defend Richard, but the defense died in my throat. "He's busy, Leo. He shows he cares in other ways. He's absent," Leo countered softly. "And you are too vibrant to be invisible." That word, invisible, shattered me. It was the exact frequency of my pain. Over the next few days, the dynamic shifted. The air between us grew heavy, charged with a confusing mix of shared grief and a desperate need for connection. I was drawn to his empathy. He was drawn, I think, to the maternal warmth he had missed, confused by adult loneliness. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. A thunderstorm had knocked out the power, plunging the house into a gray, watery twilight. I was in the kitchen, fumbling for candles, when Leo walked in. He stood by the island, watching me. The tension in the room was palpable, vibrating against the sound of the rain battering the windows. "I hate watching this," he whispered. His voice was raw. I turned the unlit candle in my hand. "Watching what?" "Watching you exist in this shadow," he said, stepping closer. "You're lonely, Clara, and it kills me because he doesn't deserve you." He was close now. Too close. I could smell the rain on his jacket and the faint scent of cedar. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and brushed a stray lock of hair from my forehead. His touch was electric, not because it was wrong, but because it was the first time in years I had been touched with genuine, focused intent. For a heartbeat, a terrifying, suspended second, I leaned into his hand. My soul was so thirsty for affection that I almost drank from a poisoned well. I saw the look in his eyes. It was a mix of confusion, desire, and a misguided need to save me. But then, the lightning flashed, illuminating the kitchen, and reality crashed back in. I stepped back. It was the hardest step I have ever taken. "No," I said. My voice shook, but the word was iron. "Leo, stop." He froze. The expression on his face cycled through shame, regret, and sudden, horrified clarity. I didn't," he stammered, pulling his hand back as if burned. "I know," I said, wrapping my arms around myself, creating a barrier. "I know you're hurting. I know I'm lonely. But we cannot do this. We can never do this." He looked at the floor, breathing hard. "I'm so sorry, Clara." Go to your room, I whispered. Please. He left. I stood in the dark kitchen, listening to his footsteps retreat, and I wept. I didn't cry for what had almost happened. I cried because I realized how dangerous my isolation had become. Loneliness is a liar. It tells you that any warmth is the right warmth. It tells you to burn the house down just to feel the heat. The next morning, the house was silent. When Richard returned 2 days later, the routine resumed as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Leo moved out the following week, citing a need to be closer to the city for work. We didn't say goodbye properly, we just exchanged a look of mutual, painful understanding. 5 years have passed since that night. I ran into Leo recently at a bookstore. He looks older now, settled. He introduced me to his fiancée, a lovely woman with a bright laugh. When she stepped away to answer a call, Leo turned to me. The air was clear between us, the storm long gone. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? I asked. For being the adult, he said, for stopping me from making a mistake that would have haunted us both. You saved us, Clara. I nodded, unable to speak, and watched him walk away. I am still with Richard. We have found a new rhythm, peaceful, if not passionate. I have learned to find my own fulfillment, to build my own pillars of support outside of my marriage. I didn't blow up my life that night, but I lost my innocence regarding love. I learned that integrity isn't just about what you do in the light. It's about what you refuse to do in the dark. Love is not just a feeling, it is an act of restraint. Sometimes, the most profound way to love someone, and to love yourself, is to draw a line in the sand and refuse to cross it, no matter how cold the wind blows.